In just 9 NBA seasons, Giannis Antetokounmpo has put together a Hall of Fame career. He is dominating the league to such a degree that the question is not just if you can be the best player in the world, but if you can be in the GOAT conversation, and maybe even the GOAT. Sounds crazy? Let's break it down. Hello guys, it's Bill, and to answer that question we first need to establish the GOAT criteria. What makes a player a GOAT candidate? The most obvious one is titles. At the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal. Players work on their craft and executives build teams in order to one day lift the Larry O'Brien trophy. They all have the same goal, so to win it is a huge accomplishment. To win one as the best player is even more huge, and you must do it multiple times to crack the upper tier of NBA legends. Next up we have the individual numbers, both in the regular season and the playoffs. They say numbers don't lie, but without context sometimes they do. In the case of the GOAT conversation though, every player who has a case for that spot has great numbers. If you are good at basketball, that will be reflected in your stats. And you need to be dominant in the playoffs as well, because that's where it really matters. Guys like Charles Barkley, who had his shortcomings in the playoffs, are not viewed as high as someone who delivered when the games mattered the most. We talked about team success and stats as criteria for the GOAT debate, but those two lead to something else as well: individual awards for the best players on the best teams. The most prestigious individual award out there is, of course, the MVP award. The problem with the MVP awards as criteria for the GOAT is that they are given to the most valuable player, not to the best player. They are heavily narrative driven, but despite all that, the best players of all time most likely have won and maybe even multiple awards. Perhaps we should go with All-NBA team selections and specifically All-NBA first team selections. To be named to an All-NBA first team isn't as prestigious as an MVP award, but it shows that you're among the 5 best players in basketball. The problem with All-NBA team selections is that they're position-based. That's why in 2016, DeAndre Jordan was named to an All-NBA first team. Jordan wasn't even a top 20 player in the NBA back then, but he was the best center on a good team, and that's why he was selected. Anyway, both MVP awards and All-NBA first team selections should be taken into consideration, despite their flaws, when discussing who's the GOAT. Other individual honors such as Defensive Player of the Year awards, All-NBA defensive team selections, All-Star selections, etc. should also count to some degree. Another factor that should be considered among the criteria for the GOAT debate is influence. How much a player has influenced the way the game is played and other players that came after him. A good example of that is Kobe. Think of how many younger players are idolizing Kobe, and they are inspired by his relentless work ethic. And last but not least, we must take into account longevity and peak. Now, I think peak is more quote-unquote valuable than longevity in this argument. Nevertheless, a GOAT candidate must have a good combination of both. With the criteria established, 2 of the players that are widely considered GOAT candidates are Michael Jordan and LeBron James. 10 championships, 9 MVPs, 23 All-NBA first team selections, and many other awards between the two. But most importantly, a lasting legacy that will affect the NBA for decades to come. It makes sense. They are 2 of the most influential players of all time, and they are, rightfully so, in the GOAT debate. You can also put Hakeem and Kobe in there, but I think they are just below MJ and the King. So these are the guys that Giannis is chasing, these are the guys that Giannis must catch to enter the GOAT conversation and surpass if he wants to become the GOAT. But what the Greek Freak has done so far, and is he on the right track? Let's see, 1-time NBA champion, finals MVP, 2-time regular season MVP, 5-time All-NBA team, defensive player of the year, 4-time All-NBA defensive team, and a 6-time All-Star among many others. Keep in mind that he is just 27 years old. He has at least 8 more good years under his belt. Despite being so young, Giannis is already one of the most influential players in the NBA. The league hasn't seen anybody like him, a 7-feet-tall monster who runs the break, has great handles for his size, and he can take 3 dribbles from half court and dunk. The mentality though is what makes Giannis a perfect role model for the younger players. He has worked for everything he has achieved so far in his career. Nothing was given to him. He proved that the quote-unquote small market teams have a strong place in the NBA. He proved that players don't need to join big market teams or super teams to win and be successful. Giannis just puts in the work and tries to become better on his craft day in, day out. He doesn't care about the bright lights of LA, New York or Miami. He just wants to win basketball games. With all that said about Giannis, let's see what the other two GOAT candidates have accomplished at the age of 27. Let's start with MJ. At 27, Jordan had no rings, was a one-time regular season MVP. He was elected 5 times to an All-NBA and 3 to an All-NBA defensive team. LeBron had a championship at 27 and a Finals MVP. He was a 5-time All-NBA and a 4-time All-NBA defensive player, and he had won 3 MVP awards. As you can see, Giannis is right on track with those guys so far. He's more accomplished than MJ, and you can argue LeBron as well. The King has an MVP award more, but no Defensive Player of the Year award. In terms of stats, MJ entered the league after 3 years in college, and he has similar stats to Giannis at 27. Giannis didn't have immediate impact on the game, it took him some time to develop. LeBron on the other hand hit the ground running and has clearly the better numbers both in the regular season and in the playoffs. Both MJ and LeBron had insane peaks, and they managed to sustain their excellence throughout their illustrious careers. But we don't know what Giannis' peak is going to look like because he's just entering his prime. Despite being right there with those two legends at this age, Giannis has a long way to go to catch up to their career accomplishments. The question is, can he do it? To answer that question, we need to look not only at how much Giannis and the Bucks can improve, but also what their competition will be in the near future. Right now, there are a few players and teams that can quote-unquote stop Giannis. The Brooklyn Nets, if they get their shit together, are one of those teams. They have one of the most offensive talented trios of all time. The combination of Kevin Durant, James Harden and Kyrie Irving should have been deadly, but so far, injuries, the pandemic and other reasons have kept them away from their potential. The future of the Nets is full of uncertainty, but the same can't be said for the Bucks. They have found their core big three with Giannis, Holiday and Middleton, and most importantly, those three are getting along very well. I don't think any other team in the East has the firepower to compete against a healthy Bucks team, so let's go to the West. The Warriors and the Suns are clearly the two best teams, but are heavily relied upon players who are older. I'm talking of course about Steph Curry and Chris Paul. They are 33 and 36 years old, and Giannis is just entering his prime. Would the Warriors and the Suns be able to stop Giannis without Steph and CP3 at full strength? Perhaps. The prime age span of a player in the NBA is not what it used to be, but it would be very difficult to deal with Giannis in his actual prime. Besides those two, we have the Nuggets who, if healthy, I think they can give the Bucks a run for their money. Nikola Jokic is on pace to become one of the best centers ever and is playing out of his mind, the last 2 seasons especially, and Jamal Murray with Michael Porter Jr. are great pieces around the Joker. If those two manage to come back and play like their old selves, a matchup between the Bucks and the Nuggets will be very fun to watch. You also shouldn't count out LeBron, but the Lakers need drastic changes and the Utah Jazz seem to be built to fail in the playoffs. If they surround Rudy Gobert with better defenders, then they'll stand a better chance. As you can see, the competition that can keep Giannis away from titles won't be relevant for long. That clears out a lot of room for the Bucks in their pursuit of more titles. The teams and stars that are young and will be here for a while are not juggernauts that the Bucks and Giannis can't handle or at least be competitive against them. If Giannis continues to be as good as he is right now, and who knows, might even be better, I think he'll definitely enter the GOAT conversation. And to be honest, I think he'll have a strong case for the greatest player of all time when it's all said and done. But things can change drastically. Only time will tell how much more Giannis can accomplish, how greater he can be. But what do you guys think? Can Giannis be the GOAT? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to click that subscribe button for more NBA content. I was Bill, and peace.